Hi, Chantel. How are you doing?
Yay, Catherine, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, but today's talk I think is going to be really useful for me as well as I hope
Yeah.
everyone else. Because when we're talking about a lot of these things, and that's why I thought, who do I want to talk to this about? And I thought Chantel, because I've been getting so many people contact me on Instagram and TikTok and through all different ways, Chantel. Bit the same as I've been feeling, where they're thinking, "Gosh, it's only the start of the year." And already they can feel the stresses and the anxiety building up on them, and they're juggling loads of different things in the air. So today we
Absolutely.
are going to be getting lots of your wisdom, and hopefully people could chat as well about some really good daily tips to manage our stress and anxiety. Because if we can get this under control, there can be so much joy, more joy in life. So before we start for
Absolutely.
that, how are you doing? And thank you so much for anyone that's joining us. Please do let us know in the chat where you're joining from.
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you. Also, just it's a busy year. It started off being busy. So, absolutely, I can well identify with what you're saying as well. In fact, this morning was one of those mornings I woke up and I went, it just felt like everything. But, for me, I'm fortunate because um, I live at the coast. And although it was a very misty morning and the weather was not exactly sunny and warm and what have you, I absolutely said, you're getting your ass out of bed and you're going to the beach. And I got to the beach. I mean, it was so misty, you couldn't see 5 feet in front of you. Um, but I definitely felt just that need to put my body in salt water. And honestly, I did. I got into the sea. It was as cold as anything, but I lay there. I will not lay there. I swam in the waves, and the wasn't exactly a low tide either. The waves were choppy and what have you, but I felt so good afterwards. So for me, I was just sitting thinking, when I was walking on the way back, it's like those moments where you follow your intuition. So for me, I knew that this morning, even though it was certainly not a day that you would say, "Yeah, I've got to go to the beach today," it was just one of those things. I knew my soul needed it, my body needed it. So I got up and I went and I had a cold swim in the choppy ocean. But I felt so much better afterwards that I really felt, wow, it kind of like just cleansed whatever needed to be cleansed, whether it was my aura or whether it was just dreams. I remember I had quite a fitful dream, sleepy, uneasy, sleepy state last night as well. And I woke up a number of times just feeling, wow, something's in the air, you
Yeah.
know. And I think a lot of what's going on at the moment is there's so much anxiety, there's so much fear going on. I spoke to one of my there was a friend of mine whose kids were at a private boys' school here in Johannesburg, and she still does work for them and was sending me a lot of stuff saying, yesterday, look at this. They're redoing one of their school halls, and it's got all this boy love symbolism on it. So, I was dealing with that yesterday as well, speaking to some of the ex pupils about the school. It's one of the elite boys' schools in South Africa. So that for me was definitely quite a traumatic feeling, knowing that this is still going on. Not too long ago, one of the teachers was arrested for pedophilia, and you're always going to get the fall guy. And just seeing the new symbolism going up again, because now everyone from that era has been fired. Now the new symbolism, and I mean, they're showing us all the time what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
They have to do that. So for me, that was definitely, it was related to that. So certain things are in your control, certain things are not in your control. But the one thing that is in your control is that you are able to manage your life. And that's really what it's about for me, Catherine. It's really about us just taking stock of who we are and managing. what we can in our own life. There are going to be days where we feel good. There are going to be days where we feel absolutely crap. But it's really just, I think all of us who are doing these platforms right now understand that this is the time where we really are in the choppy waters. And I mean, this morning, my ocean swim absolutely was so indicative of that. We are in the choppy waters, but we've got to just stay strong. We've just got to move forward in a cognitive way. And honestly, the more of us who are doing this, we're just staying connected, staying in tune with each other, the better it's going to be for all of us at the end of the day, for sure. I'm in full agreement with that.
Morning, there's everybody. So many synchronicities that I want to pick up on there with what you shared there. And thank you so much for everyone who's joining us. Erica, I really appreciate you sharing that. Erica said that please do all of us deal with our stress because it was one of the main contributors to her severe stroke. So sending you much love, Erica, and we really appreciate you saying that. And she's in South Africa now as well. We've got Joanne from Australia. We've got Carol. Let us know where you're from, Carol. But where that really resonates with me, Chantel, it's funny enough, I woke up feeling very similar to how you were describing. And I said to Bryce, and I think I said to you last week, it's like something shifted. I wouldn't call it negative. Something's shifted. Something's in the air. My spider senses are up. And since the beginning of the year. And it's not something I'm in a fear state of. However, I would say my nervous system is a bit overstimulated. So this morning I woke up and I looked at this huge long to-do list and I thought, right, I am not letting my lovely dogs and my horses get pushed to the bottom of that to-do list. So I made sure I just waited with my work, went out because I'm not near the sea, and actually, funny enough, I'm not good in the sea at all. It gives me the grief. I love salt water, but I don't love the sea. As there's something, must be a past life then thing there for me. But I went out with my horses and dogs, went for a lovely walk, took the horses up to their favourite field, and then everything settled. And one of my main tips and yours as well for dealing with stress and anxiety, those of you feeling it, is exercise and nature. And if you can combine the two, you're on to winner, because there's so many studies that show how cortisol and adrenaline are cleared from your body through exercise. And of course that makes sense, because normally let's say we believe the history of where we've come from and we were being chased by lions or dinosaurs. Dinosaurs I know doesn't quite fit with the timeline, but it does with mine. And the whole point is to be running from danger or climbing up a tree or jumping in a river or something. You'd be exerting physical exercise just like an antelope does when it runs away. And so we've lost that because of a lot of our stresses nowadays are not things that are necessarily to do with physical threats as such. They're overthinking, their work, their money, they're knowing what's going on in the world and feeling helpless, particularly since I think us and a lot of our listeners are very much empaths. So therefore, we don't naturally shake that stress off or get rid of it. So exercise and nature are really, really important things. And I think you're right, Erica, cortisol it's got its place. We don't want to not have cortisol. We'd be in big trouble if we didn't have cortisol. But chronic cortisol, which is probably the number one thing I deal with my human and animal clients, is so, so dangerous. So our top first tip, would you agree, Chanti? Get out in nature.
Absolutely.
And exercise.
Absolutely.
So what would be your number two?
Well, I wanted to just add to that as well, is definitely, nature. For me, I can tell you guys, I've not been on holiday since 2011, right? And that is the God's honest truth. Even though I lived in Thailand, people said, where are you in Thailand? I was working. I lived there. I was working. I've not actually, the most I've gone away for is 3 nights on a weekend away, right? But even then I was working. So my point is that the only way I can work the way I do and not actually take the annual break or whatever it is because I manage my life and I live in a very beautiful place. And when I feel things are becoming too much, I absolutely take those breaks. I'll go to the beach. I'll go and walk in the forest. I'll just sit at the lake on the island, that sort of thing. So for me, it's about that. You got to get that balance. Balance is
Oh
very,
yeah.
very important. And of course, exercise. I'm a yogini, as many of you know. I love my yoga. And honestly, I will tell you time after time, yoga has saved my life in many ways. It saved me from murdering people. Or maybe not quite as literally as that, but it certainly just saved me from some very, very heavy moments and just going through some very tough times in my life as well. So definitely exercise and nature would be one. And obviously there's the obvious ones: drinking water, eating well, making sure you're not taking too much sugar or caffeine or stuff like that, getting enough sleep. Those are the obvious things that I think all of us on this channel are aware of as well. But then there's stuff, for me that really works as well, is like, be an encourager for someone. Even if you're feeling like crap yourself, there's always going to be someone that that might be going through something similar or whatever. Pick up the phone and say, how you doing? I know that you weren't having a rough time last week. Can we meet for coffee? Can we meet for lunch? Maybe let's go this weekend. I'm saying that kind of stuff for me in my healing world is very, very amazing, to actually sit with someone and talk with them, because you're also going to find a lot of the times, and I'm sure, Catherine, you'll identify with this, you're going to attract the clients into your space that are going through similar stuff to you, right? So often I'm going to find people that I'm dealing with are going through similar stuff to what I'm going through. And the advice I give them, because the advice I give is always coming from an intuitive place. Is the advice I may as well be speaking to myself as well. I had 2 new clients yesterday I was working with, and both of them were coming from the same issue, exactly the same issue, but in different ways, if you know what I'm saying, in unique ways. And I realized, well, hello, that's what I'm going through as well. So the words that I give to them, I have to apply to myself as well. So to be the encourager for someone, reach out. Let's meet for coffee. Let's meet for lunch, or whatever the case might be. Or if you can't do that, just a Zoom chat or something like that, where you're just feeling maybe you can uplift someone, instead of what can someone do for me, what can I do for someone at the same time. And of course, I don't mean when you're feeling drained or have, this person has to tax you. Take the dogs. Go to the SPCA, take the dogs for walks, that sort of stuff. I want to definitely say is to put output as well is very good. You have to give yourself the input. You have to moderate what is happening within you, but then share that blessing with others as well, because so many of us are actually super blessed and we don't even realize it. So for me, that's really important, is that we can give. Because the more you give to someone else as well, you're going to be amazed at how much you receive. An hour later, you're going to feel like a different person. So that would be one of the things I would definitely say.
Such good advice. And I just want to say thank you to everyone in the chats. We've got some great people showing up. Erica, that's a really good one. I was going to come on to this, so I'll come on to this next. Don't be scared to say no and get rid of negative people. But I just want to say hi. So we've got Erica, we've got Dennis from Arizona. We've got Satu, who's just come in from shoveling snow. I love seeing. Unfortunately, it looks like the people on X have lost connection, so I don't know what's gone wrong there. We've got Corrine from Belgium. Satu from Finland, Carol from Michigan, Joanne from Australia. This is just fantastic to see where everyone's joining us from and just contributing their ideas. So let's pick up on what Erica said, because I think that this is on my list as well. These are in no particular order. Saying no is really important. And before we came on, I was saying to Chantel that this is one of the things where I'm weakest at, because I have created, like you, I'm so grateful for the life that I've consciously created over the last sort of 30 years, where I live out in nature, surrounded by my gorgeous animals. And so it's just fantastic. I literally, where I'm filming from now is a little office in my garden. So I'm literally surrounded by my animals. It's fantastic. But because a lot of us are very passionate about what we do, and I'm very much an empath. So if I know I can help, I literally find it really difficult to say no. So one of the things I'm going to get much better at this year is saying no. As Erica said, one, don't be afraid to cut out people or situations that are really dragging you down. And also, I would say, don't be afraid when people do that back to you as well, because that can be a really good learning place for you to sort of say with a real open heart, well, I wonder why, you know, how was I showing up in that relationship or in that communication?
I so wanted to say that as well. You know, one of the big things that I've always said to clients and students of mine over the years is that, you know, my wish for you is that everyone you loved or cared for will turn their back on you at one point. And I'm not saying, you know, forever and a day, but I'm saying in that moment where you lose that connection, because it's exactly as you're saying, how are you showing up in someone else's life as well? Because in that moment when you kind of strip bare, you strip naked from all your codependencies, if you will, that's the time you really get to discover that uncut version of yourself. You know, these are times where we get to discover the uncut version of who you are, that inner child, because as we've got on in life, you're going to see, you know, and really shadow work is such an important thing, because as you go back to the innermost core parts of your being, childhood stuff, baby stuff, womb stuff, you're going to realize how much already you've started covering up, and or depending on your situation at home or what you found yourself in, you know, how we've adjusted ourselves subconsciously to suit a certain place because we thought that was the best place for us. Remember, you are your point of attraction. So if you are drawing people or situations into your life that are draining your energy, I'm going to say to you, well, they are just mirrors for you. Where are you allowing yourself to be drained? Where is your energy within you cracked? That all your energy is seeping out, and now we see others as being energy vampires. Others, of course, there are energy vampires out there. You might be that in someone else's life as well, a bit of an energy vampire, right? Who knows? But I'm saying this is the time where you take stock of that, where you let those things go. And if someone is saying no to you because of something you might have done or said or hurt or harmed or whatever, or just felt like you are not part of their vibration anymore, that is something that you also need to look at. And if it hurts you or dents your ego, then that's your work to do with you. And then maybe you are the person you need to say no to. You are the person that you need to say no to. Maybe you are the person you need to say yes to as well. Always will be. But it really comes back to the place where you can sit with yourself in a beautiful space and cry, if you will, do whatever you need to. Pray, meditate, write, journal, do whatever you need to figure out what it is that you need to do. I've got to tell you, my yoga mat is my best friend in many, 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 many a day. Because there'll be times I'm just feeling fine, and suddenly I'm doing an exercise or something and I just want to weep. And I allow myself, even if it's just for a minute, because it might just be a blockage or something in me that just needs to be released. Sometimes it opens up a tap of, and I'm going, what the heck happened there? Then I'll sit with myself and I'll go into that place of recognition of what it is that needs to change. So that for me is very important. You know, we always got to look at ourselves. If people are draining you, and if all of these things occur, if everyone is stressing you out, that really means you've been creating a space where you have thinned yourself out too much. And that's usually coming from self-worth, you know. We usually do this because we feel like we have to prove ourselves. We have to make ourselves something that others are going to accept. Or feel we have to be or do or have something so that we can feel better about ourselves. But that only lasts for a minuscule space in time anyway. We have to then recognize, you are enough. You always have been and you always will be. So that's the point that I would love to see everyone to get to, is that what do I need to do? What can I do to make the world a better place? What do I need to see? How do I see myself through someone else's eyes? That's
Yeah.
important.
It's so interesting, and also realizing that you change, and what you want in life is going to change as you grow and evolve and work on yourself. So I was laughing when you said we're talking through all that, Chantel, because I had recent circumstances when I was doing other work and had other companies I was running, where I kept attracting is really draining people to work with. And I knew at the time, because I knew I was no longer aligned with what I was doing, but it took me far too long to step away from that. It was a bit too difficult to handle. So, and the universe is fantastic. As Bryce always says, one time showing, two times showing, third time God showing. And if you don't, Bryce and I did an episode yesterday, which links in perfectly with this, which is the body holds the score, all about, how your body shows you the emotions. And this links in perfectly, because I've been through these stages where I haven't listened. I've known, but I've put it in the too difficult to handle pile and left it. And then you will keep being given bigger and bigger messages until eventually you cannot ignore it anymore. So my advice is don't wait too long. Otherwise,
yeah, exactly. The universe or God or your higher self, whatever you choose to call it, will always show you things in subtle ways. It's up to you to figure it out. It's like so many times in the past as well. Let's say couples are going through a divorce, or there's been an absolute disaster, and this and this and this has happened. I'll go, okay, let's go back to the beginning. Your intuition was always telling you there was something off. What were you ignoring? Right? So, and then in hindsight, hindsight is always 2020, right? We can always look back and see all of that and that and that. That's why I say, if it's happening to you now, if things are feeling off, and remember, we go through things, and patterns are going to repeat themselves. So let's say you are a serial relationship one who feels abandoned or deceived or used, whether it's through friends, relationships, business, whatever it might be. Well, there's always signs that are going to show you. Now, in hindsight, you can see in the past that and that and that happened. This right now is feeling on such a similar flavor, and you might just be pushing through it because you think, no. This is the time then where you got to learn from your past. And Erica, I want to just say to you, it's like people, but I also want to say some people only use you. People will use you if you allow them to use you. Because you remember, we teach people how to treat us. So again, why are people using us? And yes, I'm not saying they don't, but I am saying if you are in a space where maybe your self-worth is not what it needs to be. Maybe you overcompensating in areas. Maybe you allowing yourself to be a doormat because for people to use you in the way that that you might think they are, because you've really said yes once too often. And maybe now would be the time to say, you know what? I'm just going to step back from this, not today. But maybe tomorrow I will let you know. But today that just doesn't work for me. But I will let you know tomorrow. That immediately is, and you don't have to be nasty about it. You see, this is what I'm saying. People think that setting boundaries is about putting walls down. It's absolutely not. Setting boundaries is something, it's your own inner light starts shining brighter, which means you can see better actually at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't mean you've got to now wall yourself off. That just creates more resistance. And what you resist, that persists, right? So it really is just allowing yourself that inner work, that space in time for yourself to recognize what in me has attracted the stuff that I'm attracting. It's that simple.
Yeah, I love it. And I think it's really important not to run away from things. So, a scenario is like, I don't like city centres in the dark. I don't like city centres at all, actually. But if I'm in the dark, I'm walking through a city centre, and you can sometimes get yourself on stage where you think, oh, someone might be following you. And so then you speed up and you speed up and you speed up, and your adrenaline will go up and up and up, and your cortisol will go up and up and up. And it's like that in life. If you've got a challenge or a problem and you keep trying to run away from it, your stress and anxiety will go up and up. Whilst if you stop and look at it and face it and sort of say, is this something I can do something about? If so, put it to the top of your priority list and do something about it.
Absolutely.
And if it's not, well, how can I get to a stage of sort of acceptance with it and release the stress by knowing that I'm accepting that this is something that I can't actually do something about, and therefore worrying about it isn't going to get any worse. I just need to accept it and perhaps do some breathing through it to actually get to that stage. So I think it's really important to look at these issues and not go into avoidance, because avoidance is always going to increase the stress and anxiety.
And a very good way that we avoid, and this is what I also wanted to actually, this is something I'm going to be addressing on my channel, is looking at your addictions. Now, addictions from smoking. If you're a smoker, oh boy, that is a beautiful way that we avoid lots of things in life. And I used to smoke, and make no mistake, so I'm certainly not judging. Please don't get me wrong. This is coming from someone who's been there, and I work with a lot of people. Alcohol, I'm not saying you've got to be a flawed drunk, but do you have your wine every night? Do you have your beer every day? Do you have, that sort of thing? Oh my gosh, I mean, I can't believe how many people on Facebook, for example, will talk about having their wine and wine this and wine that, or a beer this and a beer that and a beer. That is an addiction. It's a crutch. Now take that crutch away, or take those crutches away, and you're going to start seeing a very, very different story play itself out. Your addictions could be relationships. If you are a person who can't be alone, you constantly need to be in a relationship, right? That's an addiction. Or if you're not in a relationship, then you need lots of people around you. That's an addiction of sorts, right? Your computer might be an addiction. You might be addicted to pornography on the internet. You might be addicted to working. All you want to do is work. And every time stress comes, piles up, you'll just go, okay, I'll deal with that tomorrow. I've got to work now. And then you just start working and working. Be honest with yourself, because the minute you start lifting those veils, and I'll tell you things like smoking, especially to stop smoking, and drinking. Those are the two main ones, those would be the main ones. People say marijuana is the gateway drug. No, alcohol and cigarettes are the gateway drugs. And they are so freely available to us all, probably from a very young age. So those are the things you start looking at, and eating as well. Eating is an addiction. Sugar is an addiction. And sugar, for sure, would be my drug of choice. And that's something, especially with processed sugars, I've decided to stop. And I do 1 day of dry fasting a week. Wow. In fact, I stopped over the the Christmas period, but I'm starting again from next week, Tuesday. From Tuesday dusk until Wednesday dusk, I dry fast, where you don't drink water either for 1 day. It is quite a crazy thing, I got to tell you. So when you start disciplining yourself differently, and you're going to start seeing what it is that you need to be doing, where your schisms are, if you will. So we have to start disciplining ourselves differently. It's not about anyone else. It's really, we hear all these people say, get out of your own way. And that's so true. Get out of your own way. Take the blinkers off your eyes. And let's be honest, let's be truthful in a gentle, beautiful way with yourself as to what you need to change within you that's going to make a difference in your life, so that you can align with those that have already aligned with themselves. Because when you can do that, your life becomes a lot more stress-free. You connect with the right people. You synchronize with the right people at the right time. Life becomes a lot easier when you get out of your own way. And then, it's very easy for us to accuse others of draining our energy or whatever it might be. We draining our own energy, which is why we attract them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important. And I'm trying to keep these, I'm going to keep these to around half an hour because a lot of people find those easier to digest. So the last point I want to cover for this one, and I will say to anyone watching, please do leave comments in the chat below about if you want us to carry on this conversation in 2 weeks' time, because we do 1 week on my channel and then next week we'll be back on Chantal's Solution with Aquarius Rising Africa. But I want to cover what Joanne's raised in the chat because this is a really important one about very hard when family members, though. So when you've got family members, and she does say she understands what we're saying, but so for me, I'll put my 2 pennies worth in first. When you talk about family members, this is where the acceptance side comes in, about looking at what can you change and what can't you change. And then if there's things that you can't change easily, then one, accepting it, and then two, some of these disciplines to actually help you cope with it, which is where the breathing, the journaling, the getting out in nature, the exercising to release those stressors, your physical stressors and emotional stressors, your cortisol, your adrenaline. And there's so many ways we can do that, but it's a very good point, and because there are always ones that are more difficult. What would you like to say to finish off on that, Chantal?
Well, definitely about family as well. And this again is coming from the sparkly sheep in the family or the runt of the litter. I've had so many, yeah, definitely. I was the different one in my family, and it took me a very, very long time to be able to figure it out. But what I do know, and I always maintain this, your harshest lessons will be taught to you by your strongest soulmates and your guides. Why? Because we love each other unconditionally. In the spirit world, we choose our experiences on earth. So if you choose your parents, you choose your family. Now that again is a very easy thing when it's much easier when you're just intellectualizing it. But to come down and have, and I was just actually wanting to look for a Rumi quote, but I'm not going to look for it now because it might take me a while. Because I mean, I love Rumi. Rumi talks about the mirror. Why? Because your family is your mirror, right?
Yeah.
And the very thing I'm not liking in you is what I need to heal inside of me. Does that mean, let's say your family, let's say your sister or your brother is a lying, betraying, whatever it might be. It doesn't mean that you are doing that. But if that is what's triggering you, let's say lies and betrayal in your family are triggering you, and whatever emotion that can be, then I would say to you, where have you betrayed you? Where have you not been honest with yourself about whatever it is that you need to be honest with yourself about? So then you take it away from the other person and you see the mirror that they are, because our family, those are the souls who love us the most actually in the spirit world. And yet they're going to come and show us, we come down here and they show us that 180 and that quote by Rumi talking about why being irritated if you're trying to clean the mirror, and and I'm trying to get it now. You cannot be irritated by every rub as you're trying to clean your mirror, something about that. And you got to see your family as rubbing you and giving you that clearer picture of who you are. So again, I want to reiterate, it's not to say that you are now lying and betraying to other people. In fact, you might be overcompensating and being overly faithful. But how is that hurting you in the meantime? How are you not being true to yourself when you are doing that? So it's not about me, but it's about understanding where I am not being true to me, for example. So it's a beautiful, it's complex. Families are so complex, yet so beautiful and so simple. And member by member of my family, and yes, in recent months, I've certainly had one or two members of my family trigger me big time. And it's only been in the last few days again that I've been able to say, okay, Chantal, here it is. Boom. Sit down, chill, take your chill pill. This is what it's about. and coming to that point of relaxation. Where also, I always joke about myself being the sparkly one in the family, not the black sheep of the family. And it's true, because I am different. Everything about me is different in my family. Something in me chose that experience, and I need to be responsible for why I chose that experience. And only through prayer, meditation, journaling, whatever, do we find those truths.
I love it. And I'm going to finish off by saying one of my favorite things. I love Wayne Dyer. I just love him. I wish I'd met him in person. But my light's just fallen off. One of the things that he says, which was really when he was having a disagreement with one of his many children, and she was like criticizing him and this, and he said, well, perhaps next time you should be put a bit more thought into what parents you chose before you came here. And she was like, you mean I chose you? And this is what I mean. It's like, these consequences will always come back to haunt us. So have a little bit of humor with it, laugh at it, move on, shake it off. I love my shaking things off. I love it. It really works for me. I get out there outside with my dogs and I do all these weird things, and normally someone comes around the corner and sees me doing it and walks quickly the other way.
Exactly.
So I thank you so much for everyone that's joining us today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your input and your energy. Anyone who's watching this on replay, please do let us know in the comments either topics you'd like Chantel and I to cover on our Friday afternoon chats, alternating 1 week on my channel, 1 week on Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. And any questions, just ask us and we can address those, because these live chats are really there to be interactive, and we're going to be doing them regularly, so we're happy to cover whatever you guys want us to cover. Thank you so much, Chantel. I can't believe it's Friday. It's ridiculous.
It's the middle of January, babe. It's the middle of January. Isn't it the 12th or the 13th already? It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I can't believe, just a few seconds ago, I was complaining about all the holiday makers here, and now they're like gone. I'm going, wow, time's gone so quickly. But yeah, so love these Friday chats with you as well. And I want to just, again, also from my side, say thank you to everyone in the chat for contributing. It's lovely to see you guys here. And yeah, look forward to seeing you on Solutions next week with Catherine again.
Lovely. I'm going to try and work out how to get this on Instagram as well, but that's one of my technical challenges. I'll get there. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. We'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for everyone who's going to watch the replay. Bye.
Bye-bye.